Hi, Danel. So this is where you earned your stripes.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Yes, I was assigned here once upon a time. It's an interesting time. In 2009, this power plant was in very bad shape when we inherited it from the national government. I've been in AboitizPower for 15 years now. I rose through the ranks, and I worked closely with the senior leadership team over the last 4 or 5 years.
I guess now there's more work-life balance, your generation, compared to your uncles, your father.
I would say the reverse.
Really?
I think
You work harder than your dad?
I would say my generation generally has no alternative but to work harder than the generation before.
How long is your work day?
I work 7 days a week nonstop.
This is a marriage of the oldest names in Philippine business.
Oh no, are we going there? All right. No, it's not arranged.
What did you like in her?
Well, the question is what she like in me.
Okay.
She's very attractive, so that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I don't know what she was thinking.
Where do you derive that joy from? Working.
I think it's meaningful work. I think it's an opportunity to have a positive impact.
Dito sa Makiling Banahaw o Mak-Ban Geothermal Plant, nagsimulang mahasa si Danel Aboitiz sa edad na 28 sa larangan ng enerhiya. And now, Danel is at the helm of AboitizPower Corporation. Kabilang siya sa ikalimang henerasyon ng isa sa kauna-unahang pamilya sa kasaysayan ng negosyo sa Pilipinas. Join me in his first ever interview as President and CEO of the company that contributes the biggest earnings to the Aboitiz conglomerate. Dito lamang sa Usapang Bilyonaryo.
So we had to rehabilitate all of this.
When did it start to turn a profit? I mean, of course, in the beginning.
Immediately, actually.
Oh,
I must say, to be fair.
How did you do that when you had to improve the...
So it was a profitable business with an inherently low operating cost. However, it did require a lot of investment. So we purchased a profitable business, invested heavily in it, and now you see a well-kept power station that's almost 50 years old. So steam becomes water,
Yeah.
and then that water is pumped. Hot water is pumped back into the ground in order to replenish the reservoir. So geothermal doesn't have a large footprint in the world. There's only so much of it, and either the country has that endowment or it doesn't. So it's something you want to take advantage of. If you have it, you should use it.
So there are only a few
It's clean,
countries.
it's base load, it's cheap, but there are only a few countries that are blessed with a combination of a heat source, so volcanic activity, next to a water source
Yeah.
that has no porous rock in between them,
It's very,
like a kettle.
it's very unique, ano?
It's very unique. It's very interesting. Actually, let's go here. So inside those red boxes are these turbines. Steam comes from the center and flows out that way. And as the steam loses energy, begins to lose enthalpy. So temperature comes down, pressure comes down. You see the blades get bigger. So every layer you're extracting more energy. So if you remember the steam outside you were asking me about,
Yeah.
that is a process by which we condense steam back into liquid form so that we can pump the liquid back into the ground, which makes the process renewable. So we turn water into steam with the steam to generate
Then,
electricity,
parang ano
and
lang,
then put the water back in.
So
that the
again,
ground
it will create
reheat it.
more steam na naman.
Will create more steam.
Okay, walang nasasayang, no?
Just a little bit, but mostly we try to recycle that process in order to extend the life of the reservoir.
Yeah.
So what happens? Well, it will go on forever.
Yun pala eh.
But what happens is your reservoir starts to decline over time. So this facility, Mak-Ban, used to be 400 megawatts. It's now only 200.
Oh, really?
Kind of 50 years later. That's not unusual. And then it kind of plateaus.
So it's now 200 for a while.
So we've now started taking mitigating steps, trying to use some of that byproduct, that hot water or the brine, to generate electricity through another technology.
You're not yet a year old as CEO. How has it been for you?
It's been okay. It's been a smooth transition. I've been in AboitizPower for 15 years now. I rose through the ranks, and I worked closely with the senior leadership team over the last 4 or 5 years. So it hasn't been a huge transition. It's been pretty smooth.
It was as if you were really going to inherit the position. Inherit meaning it was yours.
I wouldn't say that. I would say they prepared a number of us for this role, as one should, when preparing succession for, a large conglomerate like AP. And in the end, they decided to give me the job when our former CEO Manny retired at the normal retirement age of 60.
For someone so valuable to the Aboitiz group, Manny could have been kept in some consulting capacity, or he had a role in really growing the business, and then now he's with the competition.
So I don't view the other industry players as competitors. I think, given the nature of and the criticality of the services we provide, I'm hoping to see a more collaborative industry, one where we work together to deliver cheap and reliable electricity.
Well, after all, you're partners in this big LNG venture. Tell us about that.
Meralco and Aboitiz are partners in a holding company that has invested in the LNG plants of San Miguel. There's an operating asset, the Ilihan gas plant, and that's about 1.2 gigawatts. And there's another 1.2 gigawatts under construction right beside an expansion. The company is called EERI, Excellent Energy Resources. And the three of us have come together to deliver gas to power to the Philippine consumer.
You didn't want to do it on your own. You could have.
I don't think we could have, honestly. It's a very capital intensive industry, and you need economies of scale to make it viable and competitive.
So you have a different mindset now. It's not so much destroy your competition, but work with your competition.
That's never been my personal mindset. I think there's the Philippine market is growing quickly, so there's a lot of room. The power sector is generally underinvested, so I think the capital requirements are very, very large. If you have a look at the Philippine Energy Plan that the Department of Energy just released, there are estimates of how much capital will be required to deliver on on the ambitions of our energy sector. Our transmission system needs major upgrades. We need to build considerable renewable energy capacity to meet our renewable energy goals. There are going to be base load requirements. You've got the gas to power element with Malambaya, any future upstream natural gas, the pipelines, the gas to power, power stations, the terminals that provide backup. So actually there's a lot of space. And having said all that, nothing precludes us from participating in in the energy sectors of our neighboring countries.
What are the family's principles about working in the company?
Our leaders have the luxury of choosing from a large family base. There are many of us.
You're a big family, right?
So it's, the environment is one that doesn't lend itself to an entitled attitude. We're trying to be the best employer we can, the most attractive employer we can. We're working on our employer brand. So this allows us to bring in capable professionals like Manny, who you mentioned earlier. And then we have a large family, as I was saying.
So you can be competing with your cousins.
So there's a lot
Your
of
son
talent.
will be competing with
his cousins as
a
well.
lot of talent to pick from.
Okay.
I don't know about my son. He told me that he wanted to be a YouTuber, so I think he'll be more in your world than in mine.
How young is he?
He's 7.
Does he go to daddy's office or daddy's
He
plants?
does.
Or
He does. Both my wife and I make it a point
you expose him
to expose him. We wanted
your
to see what's out there.
And yet he wants to be a YouTuber.
He wants to be a YouTuber. He decided that we work too hard. That this was not an attractive proposition for him.
Is there an Aboitiz family constitution?
The latest news, national issues. Are you concerned of the one-year ban rule with impeachment? The political scene.
You know what? Kaya po kami talaga naging magkaibigan ni Pangulong Duterte. And I hope it's because of a kinship and the commonality of beliefs.
And conversations with prominent personalities.
I always question what's out there na babrand na natin na fake or conspiracy. Parang meron naman talagang katotohanan.
All these firsthand at the forefront.
So this is the story of your involvement in power.
Yes.
You acquired muna
So
a stake
we were
in Veco.
we were partners with the Escanio family
Yes.
in a shipping company called La Naviera Filipina.
Yeah.
They were the controlling shareholder of Visayan Electric, and we joined by taking a 20% stake in 1918. We're still partners today, by
The
the way.
majority partner, right?
We are now the majority partner,
Yeah.
but we still work together very closely.
Yeah.
So you'll see we started with distribution utilities, Visayan Electric or MOC, Cotabato Light. Then later on, only in the 70s did we venture into power generation. We actually started with renewable energy.
So the involvement in renewable energy or clean energy began very early.
In 1978.
Yeah, 78. You have a long history.
And then actually we only started getting involved in kind of large-scale baseload coal in 2009.
This is where you are, all those dots there?
All those dots.
Ah.
Actually, since this map was put together, there's a few more dots have been added. Then you have the larger facilities. You have the 3 impounding hydros. So those are being Ambukla Humagat. And then the geothermals where we are now, Mak-Ban, Tiwi, which is in Albay.
Yeah.
That's over here. And then we have a number of solar facilities. So here there's only one reflected, but we've actually there's Kayanga and Lawag, Lawag Pangasinan that have been energized.
Lawag Pangasinan?
Yes, there's another Lawag. Yeah, yeah. It's not this Lawag.
Yeah.
It's this Lawag here.
Okay.
Our first break was in partnership with Statkraft, which is a Norwegian state-owned power company that mainly operates hydro assets. We had a joint venture with them, and we won the tender for Magat, Ambuklao, and Binga hydroelectric dams. So that was our first break, and then from there we won the bid for Tiwi Mak-Ban geothermal, and then the IPPA for Pagbilao coal. And I think those four moves were really what got
Yeah, what got
What
you
got AP
going? What
going,
got you
yeah.
started?
these privatizations were
happened-
8, 9. Yeah, 2000,
Just as you were joining.
just as I was joining. So
Okay, so you've seen the growth.
so the takeover of I was there for the takeover of TV Mak-Ban, and I was a accounts officer. So I inherited the contracts of National Power, and had to go see all these customers, understand their business, get to know them, and start to serve those customers.
But how was that for you?
It was like drinking out of a fire hose. It was, there was a lot to learn, a lot to read.
Yeah. And when Monchu, your uncle, approached you, was that with the blessing of your dad?
I can tell you that generally when we plan the career paths of our family, generally their parents kind of step out of the conversation. He was, hiring a number of fifth generation family members. A few of us similar in age, had graduated school and had begun to work outside. And
That's a prerequisite, work outside. Is there a number of, is there a period required?
it is a prerequisite, or it's become a prerequisite. It's been a prerequisite for maybe 18 years now. Maybe mid-2000s, 2005, they must have put that in. And we've found that actually time outside is helpful. So the trend we're seeing is that family members have been spending more and more and more time outside before joining the business.
Or sometimes they don't go and join the business
And
at all.
sometimes they don't come back.
Right? Pero madami kasing Aboitiz.
Yeah, we don't.
You're
we
a
don't,
big family.
We're a big family. I mean, there's really been very little consolidation throughout those 5 generations. So you just, multiply by an average of, 4 children.
Is there an Aboitiz family constitution?
There is.
There is. How old is it?
I don't know.
When did the family think of professionalizing, like opening up and not just confining the positions of responsibility to family members?
Maybe 3 CEOs back. My great uncle Louis started that process. He brought in some capable professionals from Shell, from Exxon. I would say that was the beginnings. And then as time moved on and the business started to grow, obviously we had to, access a more diverse skill set. The family is very hardworking, but we are similar to each other.
You need fresh
So
perspectives.
you need different perspectives, different capabilities.
The family constitution, though, can you give us an idea what's stipulated, why it was necessary to have one?
So I think that, if I remember right, my uncle Bobby first initiated the family constitution. That must have been in the 80s. And
Very
the idea is
early.
to provide clarity.
Yeah. To avoid disputes,
To avoid, setting the wrong expectations or confusion or ambiguity. And I think it served us very well. It talks about our rights, our responsibilities both as owners, shareholders, and also as family members. It talks a little bit about what's expected from working family. So that's more or less.
and there's a family council.
There is a family council.
You have an ambitious target for the share of renewables.
Yes.
It's 50, no? By 2030,
That's right.
50%, while the government is really just stipulating 35.
So the stipulation of the government is for distribution utilities. Our target is really about diversification of risk. So we want to bring our share of coal down to 50% by 2030. And I think,
How will you do this?
well, we have a considerable pipeline of variable renewable energy sources. That's solar and wind. We are going to be participating in the privatization of the Kalayaan pump storage. which is just under 800 megawatts. We're looking at, we're open to acquisitions as well.
Will you have to mothball coal plants or just convert them? How does that work?
I think for the Philippines that would be a mistake.
What?
I think to either, I think it would be a mistake to mothball them. We need a cheap, reliable source of baseload electricity. So I suspect for our fleet, we're going to just run them until the end of their economic useful life. I know this is not the popular thing to say nowadays, but I actually do think it's what's right for the country. In fact, we're going to build more
We will,
coal plants.
because we may have a shortage if that is the decision.
Because we don't have a viable replacement for baseload electricity. It provides cheap, reliable electricity for a country that's on its own transition, a journey from low income to middle income country. And I think
We need the energy,
cheap
we need
electricity
the power.
is key.
But at the same time, you're still increasing the share of renewable as you increase.
That's right.
So it's not as if
We're building renewable faster
Okay.
than
All
we're
right.
building coal. We're building coal where it's needed.
you also wear another hat as essentially part of government, because you are the Mindanao representative.
Of the IIPCC.
Right.
So those two, I think in both this role and that role, our mission actually converges quite elegantly. Again, I think my contribution to the IIPCC is to find a way to reduce the cost of electricity. I think there are two obstacles to foreign direct investment in the Philippines. One
High
is the
cost of
stability
power.
of rule of law, right?
Okay.
Ease of doing business, if you will. But the other is the high cost of electricity.
So every time I ask a person in the industry, I get a different answer.
Okay.
What to you is the real cause of the high cost of power in the Philippines?
Okay, so I think there are many contributory causes that all add up, one piling on top of the other. First and foremost, our natural endowment.
Kulang?
Our country is
Walang oil?
an archipelago.
Okay.
It's spread out, making transmission more
Hard,
expensive.
Okay.
We don't have an abundance of flat land. So that input cost is higher. Generally, our input costs are higher. Cement is more expensive. Steel is more expensive.
Because we are mountainous, we are archipelago,
Spread
mahal.
out.
Mahal. It's
Things are more expensive in the Philippines. So you have this combination, right? This our topography, our natural endowment of natural resources, the higher input costs, and then I think there's some inefficiencies. Maybe the last element to add is that in our system we reflect the true cost of electricity. Our neighbors subsidize electricity in some form or other. So they're not an apples-to-apples comparison.
Susunod, paano ba nagiging mabuting kapitbahay ang AboitizPower sa Mak-Ban?
Bawat anggulo ng bawat issue.
Nagsagawa ng mock polls ang Commission on Elections sa 30 barangay sa bansa kaninang umaga.
Bawat detalye ng mga napapanahong pangyayari.
Pinaiimbestigahan sa Kamara ang hindi pa rin nababayarang reimbursements ng mga ospital sa PhilHealth.
Tuloy-tuloy na ihahatid kahit hanggang Sabado at Linggo.
At yan ang ating weekend agenda ngayong Sabado. Ako si George Cahiles. Sa bawat issue may anggulo at ang balita may agenda.
Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb.
The questions,
What did you uncover?
Nakita natin yung sa IPO, there was a violation of Section 8 of Republic Act 9511.
the issues.
Is there a problem with that, the present setup of the syntax?
The reason there's a 5% increase is because of inflation.
We clarify matters.
All these government agencies were actually the lowest. That's why it has to be, I hope that it will be addressed.
Pinky Web is always on point.
The Aboitiz also stand out as having always that giving back, right?
I'm glad you touched on that. I've realized we kind of are seen as the large thermal or conventional power generator. But actually, we were in renewables before we were in thermal energy. We're the largest producer of renewable energy in the Philippines. And, the previous generations have always been mindful of the many stakeholders that we touch. So, these concepts of sustainability that have now been given fancy names.
We're already in the mindset.
We're always
early
in
on.
the mindset of Aboitiz.
I think it's because you started in Cebu and it's a more close-knit community.
That certainly contributes.
And you really hear,
Of course.
I mean, you're close to your customers. Could that be the reason?
I think it certainly was a contributor. In a small community, when you do something that inadvertently has a negative impact on your neighbors, you hear about it.
Right away.
And that's something we try to preserve, even in the more disconnected and large, the more disconnected nature of a large city like Manila.
Yeah.
Para sa AboitizPower, ang mabuting negosyante ay mabuti ring kapitbahay. Sa higit 50 pasilidad nila sa buong Pilipinas, they create positive change through projects that care for people and the environment. So Danel, what does it mean when you're a good neighbor? What does that redound to the community?
I would say in the simplest terms is to make sure that they are part of the prosperity journey of the business. And it's been a fundamental principle of the way we do business, and it's served us very well.
Like here, so we're in Mak-Ban, driving through the community, you see homes beside gigantic pipes. How is their life better?
This is a particularly unique situation. As you know, we bought this power station from National Power, and we took over in May of 2009. I think what we've been able to do for this community is to continue to provide employment.
So their first priority for employment?
We prefer locals. It's much easier. They have a support system. They have a community. In the event that we have forced outage or any emergency at the plant, it's much easier to access them. So there isn't really a particularly challenging trade-off. Also, in the case of Mak-Ban, because we're near an urban center, we're not far from Metro Manila. Access to good talent, it has not been difficult. We've also been trying to grow that talent through a number of like OJT programs that we host here at Mak-Ban. So if you drive around the community, you'll see that we built a number of classrooms, engaged the community, tried to improve the quality of education. After all, created a path for vocational training. And then at the end of that process, obviously, create opportunities for them to work here. We focus on education, that's a primary pillar. We've also tried to focus on community development. And then there are, a number of kind of smaller, perhaps less noticed, but quite effective community engagements. So my uncle over here, great uncle actually, he was my grandfather's cousin, used to run Napocor in 1996 to 98.
This guy, yes.
This fellow over here.
Yes, I
His name
remember
was
him
Ernie.
so well.
There he's, there's a photo of him there with Cory.
Yeah.
There he served with NPC from 1987 to 91. The early 80s, they called him the Prince of Darkness.
Oh, yes.
That's him.
Yeah, ang
First
gwapo
one to
pa
be
naman,
named.
no? Pero lahat
si, ano,
pinakagalit na galit
Gwapo
lahat.
si Prince of Darkness. I was in grade 1.
Yeah.
I got bullied in school as a result.
Really?
And now full circle.
Yeah.
Now we're providing cheap,
Imagine, no?
reliable electricity.
How did the Aboitizes choose which geothermal to buy? Oh,
That's my dad.
you know,
He was running ATS at the time.
he looks a bon vivant. Parang
He is a bon vivant.
He is,
Yeah.
no? Kaya nga,
Proudly so.
hindi mo namana yan?
He's got that base covered.
Yeah, even the smile is so naughty.
That's right.
What did your dad, if there was any particular principle that he wanted you, that he exacted on you or told you that you must live by, what is it?
He was big on truth, integrity, fairness, telling the truth. That was.
By example, or how? How did he? How
To
did
be fair, he did lead by example. You really have to look after all your stakeholders.
and have good relations with the regulator, the government.
With the government,
Yeah.
the regulator, the local government that's hosting your power stations, the media, your host community in general.
So that was your task as chief
Chief Commercial Officer.
and... No,
Oh, I'm not doing the
you
long.
shortened.
It's too long. It's too long. I shortened it, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I admit. I mean, the family as a whole, we try to live by the kind of more traditional, very straightforward and time-tested values, and the corporate values.
Up next, Danel's philosophy as a leader.
You won't find any initiative that's led by me.
Really? Is that a good thing?
Tune in to BNC's Election 2025 Special Coverage.
Ito po si Father Nono.
Ako po si Father Fiel Pareha.
Ako si Risa Singson Kaupeng.
Kape at pandasal na po tayo. Ito po si Cardinal Chito Tagli.
It looks very surreal look, oh. Diba? Parang we're in a dream world.
Yeah.
The fog.
Yes.
And you used to commute from Makati to here. For how many years did you do that?
I
every
did that
day?
for a year.
Wow.
It was easier back then.
Well, you were young.
There was less traffic.
So what's happening here?
So this is basically 5-minute intervals, right? 9:40, 9:45 onward.
Okay.
And it's telling you what's being produced from Mak-Ban A, B, C, D, E.
You see this gap here? It's to manage vibration and thermal expansion. So kanina we were outside, diba, walking on the road.
Yeah.
This is the way in. It's pretty cool technology.
Because you said we really have to balance the need for development and, well, emissions, damaging emissions to the environment.
So
in the
we're
scheme of
trying to
things.
balance the
Yeah.
many our many priorities. Sustainability, but also energy affordability and energy security. In the case of the Visayas, there's a lack of supply. At the moment, when Visayas is at its peak demand, it's actually importing energy from Luzon and Mindanao.
Really?
And the prices are higher in the Visayas. So we need to address that by adding capacity.
Reason for building more thermal plants.
So the geothermal plants in the Visayas are already at their maximum. There are no other real opportunities of any sizable opportunities to expand geothermal. The topography doesn't really, allow for other options. We're gonna build coal.
In our last conversation, you were saying you're looking at international expansion.
Oh yes, we're looking at a whole suite of opportunities, both distribution and generation. We do have quite a bit of experience in renewable energy, distribution. So we hope to bring these capabilities to those neighboring countries.
Okay, you're looking at Southeast Asia.
We're looking at a number of countries, but I think generally we're looking for jurisdictions that can benefit from our expertise.
Now let's talk about how you unwind. Do you ever? I guess now there's more work-life balance, your generation, compared to your uncles, your father.
I would say the reverse.
Really?
I think
you work harder than your dad?
I would say my generation generally has no alternative but to work harder than the generation before.
Why do you say that?
The landscape has become more competitive. It's it's a very fast-paced industry with intense competition.
Okay, so while we may look at as you having the Aboitiz name as something like a gift, to you it's a burden?
No.
No,
I wouldn't say that.
Okay, but
I would count myself as fortunate.
Okay. Would you be where you are now if you were not born an Aboitiz?
Doubtful. I'd probably be somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in life, you take out. There's many forks in the road. You can end up anywhere.
But if not for your hard work, you could be still in the middle level, right?
Yeah. No, certainly. The job itself demands, demands attention, demands time.
How long is your work day?
I work 7 days a week nonstop. I think that the times in a less globalized world allowed for a cleaner delineation between work and personal time.
So now, if you head a company as big as yours, it's really a lot of pressure. There's a lot of demand to perform, to keep the growth. I mean, parang that's so much pressure, di ba? You have to keep growing. You cannot not grow.
You have to like it. But if you look at
all
our competitors, they all work 7 days a week. That's not unique to me. I think that's the nature of the game.
Okay, you like it. Why? What do you like about it? Where do you derive that joy from? Working.
I think it's meaningful work. I think it's an opportunity to have a positive impact.
You feel that what you're doing has an impact on the country. That's what drives you, aside from, I guess, the bottom line, right? What do you think it is that the country will benefit from all this work that you're doing?
Cheap, reliable electricity.
It's not just about cheap, but reliable.
I think it's about energy affordability, reliability, and being a real partner to your customers. Trying to move away from the utility model of the past, where when you had a vertically integrated utility, which was this giant, right, National Power. We all would, connect to the distribution utility where our home is, and you take what you're given. Now in a more market-oriented energy sector, I think we have an opportunity to really serve our customers with distinction.
Okay.
So we really try to understand our customers. So if we go to if we serve, let's say, a steel mill, then that account officer really tries to understand the steel business. What do they need?
The needs.
So you have customers that need cheap base load electricity. They don't need optionality. They just need you to produce electricity cheap round the clock. You have other customers that value flexibility. They want renewable energy sources because that's what their customers in turn demand from them. So we respond to those customers accordingly. And it's actually fun to connect the dots and understand how these different businesses work and how they interface with each other.
Tell us what initiatives in Aboitiz Energy you're excited about.
Arcangel, yes.
Arcangel.
But essentially, it's we're using AI for predictive maintenance, so that we know when a component is gonna give way, how late we can push maintenance. We know where to focus our maintenance efforts. So instead of overhauling power stations based on the law of averages and based on certain intervals, like we do our cars, right? Where, every 5,000 kilometers we do an oil change.
Isn't that a science in plants?
But it's based on averages.
Here you can really push them more.
Yes. So we know when to intervene.
Sometimes you do it too early.
Well, generally you do it too early.
Because you don't want a breakdown.
You don't want to take the risk. And the reserve margins in the Philippines are thin. So we're very conscious
of doing
forced outages and the effect that it has.
This is your baby?
No, it's not. This is you won't find any initiative that's led by me.
Really? Is that a good thing?
I think so.
Because there's more autonomy, there's more...
I have a very strong team in place. And I think we've divided labor well. So I think each of us know, the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. So, and I view my role more as a conductor rather than.
I was about to say, as a conductor of a symphony.
Yes.
Credit is not important to you.
I think, as a general rule, giving credit to others is beneficial to yourself. Most of these, almost any win in a company of this size, in an industry of this nature, is an all hands job. It requires many people to come together, and I think often, we see those that are at the front of the initiative. And we don't see the support crew.
You're a scuba diver, right?
Yes, I am. So I'm a technical diver.
Technical diver.
I have a group of like-minded explorers, and
you can do wreck dives.
Yes, yes.
But where do you fit that in if you work 7 days a week?
Magandang gabi, ako po si Pinky Webb.
At ako naman si Corina Sanchez Rojas.
Kombinasyong Corina Sanchez Rojas at Pinky Webb. Dalawang mamamahayag na subok sa tapang at talino.
Simulcast tayo sa DWAR Abante Radyo at 94.7 Mellow BFM.
Mapapanood din tayo sa Abante Teletablo sa SkyCable. Sa bawat issue may anggulo at ang balita may agenda.
I graduated with a degree in politics and philosophy. I thought it was a good counterbalance to my time in Xavier. Xavier's very much STEM focused. Very focused on math, very focused on sciences.
Why Xavier?
I think he wanted me to learn Chinese.
Okay.
And he wanted me to go to a serious school that was, big on discipline.
You didn't give him any headaches?
You'd have to ask him that. I don't think I gave him any headaches as a child. Maybe as a grown-up.
In what sense? Did you have your share of scrapes?
No, not scrapes. My parents trained me to be very independent. Sometimes I wonder if they regret that a little bit.
Independent in what sense? Like you got out of the house so early?
Right.
You did?
In every sense.
Which was what age?
Well, I left for boarding school when I was 15. And then apart from, maybe the 1 year when I was working in the Manila International Container Terminal. Apart from that, I've lived on my own.
Oh, so very early you just got out of the
So I went to boarding school and then I went to university.
Where did you start?
So I started in a satellite radio company based out of Madrid. And then I moved to ICTSI to work for Mr. Ricky Razon. I worked at the Manila International Container Terminal. And
did you apply like any normal person?
well, they had a management trainee program.
Okay.
But I think I had a leg up.
Okay.
So I would say the application process was not difficult.
Of course, he's a friend of you. I mean, you probably knew him growing up, right?
Yes.
He was like an uncle.
Yes, but then once you're in, it is pretty challenging. But I must say enjoyable. I enjoyed my time in ICTSI. And then at some point, they sent me to their container terminal in Yantai, China. That's on the 38th parallel opposite Incheon, Korea.
Because you speak Chinese, no?
Somewhat. Spent a lot of time learning Chinese. My uncle Monchu, who was CEO at the time, asked me to join Aboitiz.
And you started from what? How far down?
Back to the bottom again. I was an accounts officer, so selling electricity to electric cooperatives and industrial customers. I've reorganized our leadership team, so we reorganized ourselves to match the talent we have. It's more reflective of recent events. So we planned for succession. I had people ready to take on this role, but they moved on to other jobs. So since I had no one to replace me, as all the people I had prepared to replace me had taken on other roles, we had to resort to this reorganization. One was my cousin Sandro, who was leading the sales team. He's now our CFO. The other is ERC chairperson Mona Di Malanta, who was our chief legal officer, but she moved on to the ERC. And then you have Dennis De La Serna, who was our chief regulatory officer and is now the CEO of Pisalm. So I suppose others saw the capability and the promise of those talents.
But still, the fact that they used to work for you or with you mean you have, they look more kindly to you?
I think in the case of Chair Mona, it's quite the opposite. She's very cognizant of how things look, and she's a professional, and values her reputation for impartiality. So you'll see from the history of ERC decisions that they have been very fair, if not maybe a little
wanting to distance
a little tighter with
with the previous employer
with AboitizPower. Yeah.
So it can work against you, in fact.
Well, I think all things considered, it's a plus. Having a good regulator and elevating the industry, evolving regulation is good for everybody.
And you said that you really want to bring this down for us to be able to move forward, right? How?
We're taking a portfolio approach, trying to combine different technologies to serve different parts of the load curve. in a more efficient way, sourcing materials cheaper, fuel cheaper, trying to benefit from economies of scale. So through a combination of, again, many small things that all add up to lower the cost of electricity. And hopefully some regulatory reform. A more competitive landscape that encourages more investment and a lower cost of capital.
Like, what can the regulators do to create a more attractive environment?
Reduce uncertainty. And they are taking steps. Our regulators are actually, I think, moving in the right direction.
In legislation, is there a wish list that you have?
I wouldn't say a wish list. There must be, 5 or 6 pieces of legislation that all are aimed at trying to improve the general conditions in the power industry.
Making it more attractive for foreign investors.
And,
you still
and
have
some steps have already been taken. The NGCP has started to strengthen the grid. We've seen the DOE allow 100% foreign ownership for variable renewable energy. You have the green energy auction program. So I think it may seem like not a lot is happening, but there are many small steps, and generally a more, I think, more collaboration among industry players, and also among industry players and the government.
Where do you fit in diving?
So I don't.
You're a scuba diver, right?
Yes, I am.
What's your level? Rescue diver na?
So I'm a technical diver.
Technical diver.
I have a group of like-minded explorers, and we
you
like
can
to
do wreck dives.
Yes. It's been a lifelong sport.
But where do you fit that in if you work 7 days a week?
Generally, every third weekend or so, I'll go sneak in a dive on a Saturday.
Okay.
We just try to, make things fit. And there are lulls in the year. So when I have a free moment, I'll use it. I actually spent more time with the other side of the Zobel family. Spent a lot of time with Inigo and his children. His eldest daughter was that's my childhood best friend, actually.
Really?
We grew up together, so so I really only got to know my father-in-law through Mariana.
This is a marriage of of two oldest names in Philippine business.
Oh no, are we going there? All right. No, it's not arranged.
Okay, how did you meet?
So there was a Spanish restaurant at the ground floor of this building.
Yes.
And there was some kind of event, a family event of some kind.
Okay.
And she had just come back from her time in New York. We ran into each other in Donosti.
What did you like in her?
Well, the question is what she liked in me.
Okay.
She's very attractive, so that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I don't know what she was thinking.
You are passionate about your work. I think that's attractive.
We have a lot in common.
Sure,
so she works 7 days a week as well.
Okay.
But no, we find time.
Yeah.
We find
Quality
time. I have
time.
my priorities clear. Family first. I think, again, the key is to try to fit this all in like a puzzle.
But obviously, ayaw ng anak mo kasi gusto niya YouTuber na lang.
Yeah, he
complains. He complains.
No, he doesn't complain,
Okay.
but he sees. In fact, he doesn't complain at all because he equates hard work to income, and he equates income to more toys for himself. So, in his mind, it's like, okay, you work away, that's fine. But he has certainly noticed that it's a taxing job, and I don't think he's very interested. So.
You don't bring work home.
I do.
You do. No choice.
Both Mariana and I have an office at home. But it's okay, we just mix and match.
May we now use the remaining time to go around and identifying. Let's start here.
Okay.
Who are they?
So that is my great-grandfather's older brother.
great-grandfather.
Yeah, that's Ramon Aboitiz.
What was his role?
Well, he really made Aboitiz what it is. That's him too.
Okay.
That's his grandson.
Sorry, Ramon.
Yeah, that's the same fella.
Because Aboitiz started Abaca trading,
That's
di ba?
right, yeah.
And up to now, people think you're still super fairy.
I know.
You sold that not long ago, no?
In 2007, if I'm not mistaken. That's Emilia Restorsa, my great-great-grandmother.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is Bye Leyte where we started.
So pareho rin pala with the Garcias and the Vivant?
Yeah,
Ano ba
so
yan?
we had a
Same.
shipping company with
Yeah.
them, La Naviera Filipina.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I dug up a stock certificate for
Okay.
La Naviera Filipina in the name of my great-great-grandfather, whose name is Vidal. I'm sorry, great-grandfather.
Okay.
And my son's name's Vidal too.
Huh?
So actually kept the stock cert.
Ay, really? So that's him. That's the wife. You now want to be the first conglomerate. What does that mean?
So I think what our group CEO is trying to encourage is the use of technology to improve efficiency, find synergies, and generally kind of make more efficient use of limited resources.
Hence conglomerate.
A conglomerate that is brought together
By tech.
and made more efficient and interconnected by tech.
But Aboitiz Energy's contribution to the whole conglomerate is how many percent? You're the lion's share, no?
Right now we are the lion's share of income contribution, but
How many percent?
about 70. just
Wow! You're the boss.
Not really. Doesn't work that way. No, but we have been investing heavily in other sectors, and I think
And
you're going to see the other business pillars
Growing
really begin to grow.
fast. Whose approval do you value?
My
Like
wife,
if they-
my son, I guess a lot of people. My customers. I want my customers to be happy.
As the Philippines' demand for energy increases amid a stronger push for sustainability, AboitizPower is leading the way by providing innovative solutions that don't just power homes and industries but also empower communities and help save the planet. Nakita natin kung paano nila binabago ang paggamit at paglikha ng enerhiya tungo sa isang mas malinis at mas progresibong kinabukasan. Hanggang sa susunod nating pagkikita dito lamang sa Usapang Bilyonaryo, ako po si Ces Oreña-Drilon.